And we're back. We are back. We are back. This is a live stream. Texas, a dynamo of sorts. I'm going to share this on Twitter. And here we are. For those of you that are just tuning in, we had some technical difficulties earlier, but ooh,
Hi, I'm Bix.
problems again. We had technical difficulties earlier, but we are here. We are live and we are tuning in. We're tuning in. This is live stream by the Geo Scholar, Texas, a dynamo of sorts. And I wanted to talk about the energy. I wanted to talk about energy resources in the state of Texas and the role geography has to play in this. First, where is the state of Texas? Let's scroll back. There we are. The South Central United States of America. You got Mexico here, you got Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, New Mexico over here. Borders Mexican states of Chihuahua, Coahuila, Nuevo Leon, and Tamaulipas. So you border 4 American states and 4 Mexican states. That's where the state of Texas is located. Now there's also more to the state of Texas location. For starters, let me mention a few things about Texas and its energy resources. Start by understanding Texas is one of the top producers of petroleum, oil in the United States of America. Texas is very good at producing that. It's been producing that for about a century. You've got places in western Texas that produce oil, particularly around Odessa, Midland area. Got a lot of oil refineries in the state of Texas, especially around. You go on the Gulf, you got some, especially around Houston area. You've got a lot of oil resources, a lot of natural gas resources in the state of Texas. And, a lot of people, when they think of Texas, they think of oil, and for good reason. You've got a lot of oil in Texas. And with Texas being a big oil state, a lot of people don't think about renewable energy. In fact, when you think about energy resources and the state of Texas, you should think of the state of Texas as a dynamo of sorts. That's what you should think of it as. You need to think of it as, you got this, it's like a dynamo, it's like a big energy center, you know. All this, power being produced in the state of Texas. You've got all this energy, you got the oil, you got natural resources, you've got some other resources being produced in the state of Texas. You've got some renewable energy being produced in the state of Texas. You've got your biofuels being produced in the state of Texas. You've got wind energy, you've got solar energy. In fact, a little statistical fact here: the state of Texas produces one of the highest amounts of wind energy in the United States of America. In fact, almost about 1/5 of Texas's energy that's produced within the state of Texas, close to 1/5 of it is produced by wind power and solar power. Now, a lot of people would not think of it because a lot of people think, oh, oil. Oil is going to be the big money maker in Texas, and yeah, you're gonna have a lot of oil produced in the state of Texas, but that's not all that's being produced in the state of Texas. That's not all, and that's not the only thing being produced here. There's more. You have to consider, and this is where the role of geography is coming in. The first thing we got to think about in the state of Texas, you have to think about how big it is. You have to think about how big the state of Texas is, and you have to think about the vast geography of the state of Texas and how you have this potential of being a major dynamo of America. You've got this major dynamo of sorts, and geography does play a role in this. Let's take into account solar power. And I'm going to bring up some maps here. I'm going to bring up some maps. We're going to bring up maps and this solar map. Bring up some geospatial data because a lot of things are very geospatial. We're going to bring up solar irradiance for about the past 20 years. If we can get this to come up. And here we are. That's a map of the state. That's a map of the United States, actually. And this is your National Renewable Energy Laboratory. That's the map here. Basically, this map will show you the average daily resource and as you can see, that's Texas. The further west you go within Texas, the more solar irradiance you have. Nina Walter, yes, Jeff 17, no, aka Austin Stitzel. I love energy, I love wind speed. I'll be getting to that in the video pretty soon, just sit tight. We'll be getting there. I'll be getting there in a moment, but this is your direct normal solar irradiance. This is kind of like a model. Basically, the further west you get into Texas, the more and more solar irradiance you start to have. Basically, you get further out here into like California and Arizona, you got a lot more solar irradiance here. You got a lot more potential for solar power because of the, irradiance. You get a lot more sunshine, you get a lot more direct sunlight. You get out here, and I'm going to get in towards. You get out here towards like El Paso, towards the desert region. get out here, as you can see, you're out in the desert. You're out in these desert areas, you're out in the mountainous areas of West Texas. West Texas being a dry area, being a very sunny area. Texas basically can be one of the sunniest states in the United States on any day outside of the Southwest. You get up into like the Panhandle region, you get out into like western Texas, towards like Lubbock, towards Midland, and towards Odessa. Got some of the sunniest areas in the United States of America. And we're back. I just showed you that map. You got a lot of solar irradiance. You got the geospatial data showing you some of these potential, or you're more likely to get the most sunshine where there's the most potential for solar resources. And that's one role geography plays right there. You've got a part of Texas that's very sunny, gets a lot of sunshine, and Texas having a lot of, many parts of Texas getting a lot of sunshine, particularly towards the western part of the state. And you also have, I also just showed you some geospatial resources courtesy of the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, showing you, so the bulk of solar resources, solar potential being in the southwest, you know, being so sunny, having that solar irradiance, and just, you're able, you can just build a lot of solar resources there, get a lot of, solar panels, and you can build your solar energy resources there, get your electricity from the sun that way, from the sun. You have that renewable energy. And I'm about to find another map right now. I'm going to find another map for you. Solar energy. Oops. Oh. Got another map here. This map. Annual solar resource source data are shown for tilt equals latitude collector. Basically. Kilowatt hour. As usual, you look at the state of Texas, further west you go, more kilowatt hours per meter squared per square meter. Kilowatt hour per square meter per day. The bulk of that being towards El Paso. The most of it. Your photovoltaic solar resource map. Now, you look at the geography of the state of Texas. Obviously, I've shown you the further west you go, the sunnier it gets and the more photovoltaic solar resources that are available and can be built up, the more infrastructure solar energy is being built up in the state of Texas. Excuse me. However, it's not the predominant one. The predominant renewable energy to be found in the state of Texas is wind power. Wind power is where the most energy is being built up in the state of Texas. And this right here, I'm going to show you the role of geography. But before I do, I'm going to go to Google Earth pretty soon and show you some solar farms. Ooh, somebody liked the video, awesome. But for those of you who just tuned in, I'm about to show you something. Uh, next door, dogs barking. Show you something for a moment. I think right here we got the East Pecos Solar Center, solar facility. So you do have some solar resources being built, some solar farms. I can't get up much closer. I don't think they allow that. Exit for ground level. Yeah, that's one facility. That's one facility. I'm going to show you another facility. Just in a moment, I'm going to show you. Oops. if we can get it. No, we can't find that one. We're gonna have to find one closer into. Check out one near San Antonio, Blue Wing. Got another solar farm out here closer to Antonio, Texas. There it is. There's San Antonio. As you can see, you've got the solar energy resources being built up. I'll show you some of the places where you do have solar energy resources. And next I'm going to go into wind energy. This is one of the top producers of wind energy in the United States of America. To understand why this is, you have to understand the location of Texas. The state of Texas, parts of the state of Texas, considerable parts of it, are part of the Great Plains. You've got the region around the Texas Panhandle. You've got places like Lubbock and Amarillo, which are part of the Great Plains. And one of the great features of the Great Plains is just the sheer amount of wind you get in the area. You've got some of the windiest areas of the United States of America located in this region. And parts of Texas are part of this region. In fact, I'm going to turn to my trusty Google Earth, as always. Got Google Earth right here. I'm going to show you up close, show you towards Amarillo. Yeah, oops. You go out, you got some of these flatter areas. Try to get closer and closer. This part of Texas is part of the High Plains. This is where the bulk of the wind energy is produced. This part of Texas. In fact, I am going to bring up a map right now. Bring it up. More geospatial data I will show you. Places of average place wind speed. And as you can see, states are around this region. And part of the state of Texas lies within this region. Right here, you got around the panhandle of Texas, going up into Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming. But you've got some high wind speeds around this region. Had some of the higher wind speeds in that area. And so for that reason, you were able to produce more solar or more wind power in that region. In fact, this is where a large bulk of the United States of America's wind energy is being produced. You've got your average wind speed of 7 meters per second. Now, granted, there's a caveat here. The average wind speed indicated on this map, these are model-derived estimates, and they don't always represent the true wind resources at any given location. You've got terrain, vegetation, buildings, anything could be a factor, but this gives you just sort of a general idea. It could vary once you get on the ground. It could be higher in a lot of these flatter areas because you've got wind just going unabated. No buildings anywhere. Nothing like that. I got more to show you. Now, one thing you have to understand, this map, the next map I'm showing you, should give you a better idea of wind energy resource potential. Because this one is showing you the wind speed at 100 meters above the ground. And this, because you must understand. You must understand with wind energy, they're building these high turbines. The turbine blades that you see on these windmills. The windmills are being built up really high. You've got these really big turbines that are being turned by the wind, and so the energy resources are going to be higher towards again, if Texas is represented. United States wind power resource at wind speed at 100 meters hub height, and you go further back, as you can see, some of the highest is towards the Great Plains. I'm going to show you areas, wind speed. You got 10 meters per second, 9 meters per second, 8 meters, 7. You got some of these places in Texas where you got wind speeds going at 8 to 9 meters per second at a height of 100 meters up. And so that provides a base there for wind power. Little known fact, about 17% of Texas's energy comes from wind power. And it's very fitting considering this map. You can see a very large bulk of wind power being produced in the Texas Panhandle region. A little bit of you got some wind power potential down here, and sort of gives you an idea of the potential for wind power. Some of the windiest areas in the United States of America are in the Texas Panhandle. I showed you a few maps. Showed you a few maps with your resources and your wind resources. And the one constant that is going to be mentioned here is geography, and this is the role geography plays. You're living in a place where you've got your vast variety of landscapes, so you're going to have options for, it depends on what's in the area. You're in a state like Texas, which in many places gets a lot of sunshine. You're going to have that base there, that potential to build on solar resources, and there's more potential to keep building and to keep building more solar energy in the state of Texas. And you can build it out in places like western Texas and, central Texas. You can keep building there, and Texas can keep on becoming this dynamo of sorts because of its geography. Its geography allows for that. And then you have to consider the wind power. You have to consider the state of Texas and its wind power resources. You have to consider that in the state of Texas, you have areas that are very windy, and that large amount of wind allows for the building up of wind energy resources. In fact, Texas is a major producer of wind power in the United States of America. This plays a role in how you can get your electricity in the state of Texas. More than one way to get your electricity in the state of Texas. In fact, you've got those two renewable resources like right there, the sun and the wind. And there's also another energy source to consider that I didn't mention earlier, but I am going to mention now. You go to the state of Texas, there are quite a few dams there. You get those dams, you've got hydropower. And with the relatively decent amount of hydropower with the rivers in the state of Texas, that's another geographic resource right there. You've got the hydroelectric power being produced in the state of Texas. Further affirming what it is to be like, the dynamo of the state of Texas, an American dynamo of sorts. Just the diversity of renewable resources available in the state of Texas. In fact, that is actually the most common renewable resource in the United States of America is hydropower. However, in the state of Texas, it is available. The state of Texas has about 23 dams. In fact, you've got the Colorado River in the state of Texas. The Lower Colorado River Authority operates about 6 dams in the state of Texas. I'm going to show you where the Colorado River in the state of Texas. There are actually 2 Colorado rivers in the United States. I'm going to show you the one located in Texas. I still got stuff up. Right here, you've got the Colorado River in Texas. Got it around here, central Texas, south central Texas. In fact, the city of Austin, you have the Colorado River flowing through it. There it is. You got this, the capital of Texas right here. You got Lady Bird Lake. You got the Colorado River flowing through the state of Texas. Lower Colorado River Authority. This authority actually operates a considerable amount of dams. In fact, we're going to take you to the Thousand Island Dam. Here in San Marcos, Texas. Anyway, obviously you can see geography plays a big role in. You have to think about how geography is an important part of how energy is produced in the state of Texas. And for major reasons, you've got hydroelectric power being produced. Actually, I'm going to show you the Lavon Dam. That's one dam that I want to show you. This one is actually near the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or along the Trinity River. Got an example of hydroelectric power here. Got the lake here. Got Lavon Lake. Got Wilson Lake. Got some of the areas around the lake. The state of Texas has several rivers. You got the Colorado River, and for anybody who is thinking the Colorado River goes through Colorado, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and California, you have two Colorado rivers. There's obviously that Colorado River, which also has a lot of dams, which also supplies a lot of hydroelectric power to places like Las Vegas. You also have the Colorado River in the state of Texas. I showed you that one. And you have dams on that river which supply hydroelectric power to areas of south central Texas. And you also have the Trinity River, which some of the dams on that river supply hydroelectric power to the region of northern Texas. And you've got a few different rivers in the state of Texas which are very important to hydroelectric power. You have it being produced with dams, you're building the dams, you're building the reservoirs. In fact, in the state of Texas, there are several of these reservoirs, these artificial lakes being built out of the rivers. The dam being built, and you're trying to generate that electric power because, you take the turbines, you put them underwater, and you've got the flow of that water, turning the turbine blades. And you consider the geography, you've got your rivers, and that being a major supply of water power. And water power has long been an important, water, just the water being a very big, important source of power in general. You know, it's been used by human beings for eons. You know, people building grain mills, people building sawmills, people building factories next to rivers. The rivers being a major source of power and electricity. The rivers turning those grain mills, the river turning those sawmills. And, that's one reason why you have that electricity being produced in the state of Texas from hydropower. Now, I've gone over several parts of this in understanding it in terms of geography. You've got solar power, you've got wind power, you've got hydroelectric power. You've got your solar power obviously being produced because of the climate in the state of Texas. You've got vast areas where it's very sunny, and you can build solar farms, and a lot of photovoltaic power, from the sun being collected by, solar panels, a large amount of solar farms, and just the fact that you've got all that sunshine to collect it. And you can produce electricity that way. And then you have the wind. You've got the high plains area of the state of Texas, which is one of the windiest parts of the United States of America. And you got an area where you got all that wind, which can just go unabated. And you've got a lot of wind resources available and can be built. In fact, the state of Texas is one of the largest producers of wind power. About 17% of Texas's energy resources come from the wind. And for some people, this would be very surprising considering that Texas is a major producer of petroleum resources like oil. Many people do not think that it is possible to have a place where you have a large amount of petroleum being produced in, an area where you have a large amount of petroleum being produced, having such a large production of renewable resources. Texas is not number one in America for renewable energy production. However, when you consider its petroleum and natural gas resources, and then you consider all of the solar resources and wind resources that it has, and then you consider its hydroelectric resources, in its own way, it's a dynamo of sorts, as mentioned in the title of this live stream. You've got, I mentioned solar power, I mentioned wind power, and now hydropower. Hey, Gio. Hello, Carl. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. You've got the hydropower. Hydropower. You've got a lot of rivers in Texas, and dams, and reservoirs being built to harness the power of water. You've got that part of geography as well. You know, hydroelectric power being geographic in nature because you can only build hydroelectric power where you've got vast flowing water resources, i.e., the rivers. And Texas having the Trinity River, having the having all of that. It's been a while since I saw you on Periscope or Stethoscope. Oh yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, you got your, you got a state like Texas, which is very big and has a diverse geography. You have to understand, how renewable energy can be produced in the state of Texas and how it is being produced. Some resources being produced more than others. In the state of Texas, for instance, it's the wind. And then you have to consider some more. You've got biofuels being produced. The state of Texas is a big agricultural output. It has a big agricultural output. You have resources like corn. You have a lot of, Texas produces a sizable amount of sugar cane for the United States, of course. Sugar cane's not a big crop here in the United States. It's more common in other places. But you certainly have biofuels being produced in the state of Texas because wherever you have a large agricultural output, you have that potential for biofuels being produced. Hydro plants remind me of those built during the 1930s and the New Deal of the South. Yes, the Tennessee Valley Authority. You bring up a good point. You've got the hydroelectric plants that were built under the Tennessee Valley Authority, another example of an area's geography being used to harness electric power. And you have that same thing happening in the state of Texas with the Trinity River, with the Colorado River, have that being done. But if you were to just take a good look at just the geography of Texas, you were just take a good look at the land, take a good look of how the land can be used to harness energy and to turn that area into a dynamo of sorts, and how important that is, and just the very fact that that does happen. It's very important to consider the geography of a place. Oh, it's so noisy outside for Sunday. But if you were to consider just the geography and how it can be used to harness the power, electric power. Basically, when you think about it, Texas is a dynamo in its own way. You've got so many different sources of energy being produced in the state of Texas. You've got your natural gas, you've got your petroleum. This video focused mainly on how the land was helpful in terms of producing a lot of renewable resources like solar power, wind power, hydropower, biofuels. That's what this is about. And it leaves a lot to consider about energy independence. It leaves to consider how can the United States produce more and more of its own energy, and what resources are available in the area that you live in, and how you can become more and more energy independent, and how just just starting on the local level, you know what energy resources are here, what resources are in this area. You start with a state like Texas, you've got a platitude, you've got a plethora of resources, the just a myriad of options, solar, wind, hydro, biofuels. You got just sort of the options there. The biofuels, you produce things like, you know, ethanol, biodiesel, and then you've got some of the stuff, that can be sent to certain plants that produce electricity. You can, for instance, you got the refuse from a certain crop, like a waste, like if you were producing sugar cane or corn, you got the stuff that can't be used for food that have, you can take some of that and, burn that, use it to produce electricity. Or some people will take a certain amount of a crop, like corn, and use it to produce biodiesel or produce ethanol out of it. In Brazil, it's being done. And it's being done here in the United States. It's being done in Texas. It's being done in Iowa, you know. But you really look at it, you have to think about how electric power is being produced. And then you have to think about what can be produced here. What can be produced? How, thinking about energy independence, thinking about, how to produce more electricity cheaper. Is there a potential to produce cleaner energy, to rely, to have more growth in renewable energy? You know, can we use both? It leaves a question: can we use both your fossil fuels and your renewable energy? Where do we strike that balance? How can we have cleaner air in our cities? And you know, anyone who's thinking, this is not a rant against fossil fuels. This is not to say to stop using fossil fuels. This is not to say that. This is simply to say to think, how many options we have. You know, how much electricity can be produced, how much energy can be produced, how many options do we have, not just with electricity, but to power your cars, to power other vehicles like your trains, your buses. How many options are there, and how can we keep generating that energy, to power things like, electricity, or to power things like cars, how to power all of that, how to become more self-sufficient when it comes to energy resources, how to do all of that, and how geography can play a big role in all of this. You think about the land, and you think about all the resources that are available. You go to places where you get infinite amounts of sunshine. You have that potential there with these solar power resources. Areas of vast amounts of wind, you have that resource of wind power. Areas with a lot of rivers, obviously you've got your hydropower. And then you've got the land itself, which can be used for growing crops, or growing things that are feasible for producing biofuels. You know, that stuff being there, just to have a diversity of options in terms of producing energy. And that's something that must be considered. So you think about the land, you think about the geography of a place and how it can play a role in what energy resources are there. And that is why we have this title of the video, Texas, a dynamo of sorts. Because in a big way, Texas is a dynamo of sorts. It's a dynamo of sorts because, yes, you have your oil being produced in Texas. You have a lot of natural gas being produced in the state of Texas. You also have a lot of biofuel being produced. You have a lot of solar power. You got a lot of wind power. You got a lot of hydropower. It's like just so many different resources being produced in the state of Texas. And just all of that just coming together, making it sort of this big, all this energy being produced in the state of Texas. You know, Texas being a big state, Texas having a variety of landscapes and all of that. And you gotta think about, it gets you thinking, what is the geography of where I live? What can be produced here? What is the climate like where I live? You have to think about a lot of questions and what can be produced in your area. This concludes this live stream of Texas, a dynamo of sorts. If you enjoyed this live stream, be sure to like the stream, share it. Be sure to check out other videos that I have on this channel. And as always, make sure that you leave a comment, like, and subscribe. And next week, I'm going to be having another live stream with another YouTuber, The Last Grown Up in the Woods. We are collaborating. We are going to have a live stream about the geography of the Pacific Northwest. And we're going to be talking about sort of the diversity of landscapes and the geography and how people can understand the northwestern part of North America, places like Oregon, Washington State, the Canadian province of British Columbia. We're both going to talk about that topic next week, December 30th on Sunday around 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to put this event reminder on the Facebook page for the Geo Scholar. This is going to be advertised on Twitter as well. So be sure to look for reminders about this event pretty soon. As always, you got to keep learning geography. You got to keep learning about the land around you. You got to remember all of that because, without your geography, you're never going to know how the land around you works. You're never going to know what's available to you in your area. You're never going to know what makes your area work the way that it does. And that is why you must understand geography. Till next time, this is the Geo Scholar.